Welcome to Wise Down Life. Tonight, we're going to step gently off the edge of now and walk together through a time long ago, not to learn, not to be amazed, but simply to rest. We'll visit a world where days unfold like the slow unfurling of leaves in spring, where life moves with the rhythm of seasons, not schedules. A medieval village in Europe, tucked between rolling hills and ancient woods, where peasants rise with the sun and kings sit beneath heavy crowns, each living a life shaped by duty, silence, and the quiet passage of time. We won't choose sides here. No battles to win, no revolutions to spark. Just two lives, ordinary and distant from one another, yet both touched by the same moonlight, warmed by the same fragile fires, carried forward by the same breath after breath after breath. If this feels like somewhere you'd like to stay a while, perhaps you could leave a small trace behind, a like, a comment, just your name and the local time where you are right now. Not because you have to, but because it might feel nice to say, I was here. I listened. I let go. And if you'd like to return to places like this each night, where history doesn't shout but whispers, you can subscribe to Wisdom Life, softly, quietly, whenever it feels right. Now, let the room grow darker. Let your eyes close, or stay half open, resting on the gentle glow of the screen. Let your hands fall loose at your sides, your shoulders soften, your breath deepen just a little. There's nothing to hold on to tonight. No thoughts you must keep. Just this voice, moving slowly, like a breeze through tall grass, guiding you down a narrow dirt path, lined with wild thyme and daisies, leading you deeper, deeper, into the past, into peace, into sleep. Part 1. The Dawn of Two Worlds. The first light of morning does not arrive with a shout, but with a hush, a pale silver glow seeping through the cracks in wooden shutters, touching the dust motes that float like tiny stars in the cold air. It is not yet dawn, not quite, but somewhere in the deep quiet before it, two lives begin to stir, separated by miles, by wealth, by title, yet both rising from sleep in the same slow, reluctant way. One in a bed of straw tucked beneath a thatched roof, the other in a canopy of velvet and oak, high within stone walls that have stood for centuries. The peasant and the king, both closing one chapter of rest, both stepping into another day they did not choose, yet must live all the same. You are lying there with them now, not as a watcher, but as a presence, soft, weightless, drifting between these two worlds like mist over a field. Feel the coolness of the air on your skin, the faint stiffness in your limbs from hours of stillness. Hear the distant crow of a rooster, muffled by distance and fog, calling time forward as it has done for generations. Somewhere, a child whimpers in sleep. A dog stirs at the foot of a bed. The world is not awake yet, but it is breathing, slowly, deeply, preparing to turn another page. In the village, the peasant opens his eyes. He does not reach for a clock, for there is none. He listens instead, the rhythm of his wife's breath beside him, the rustle of cloth as she shifts under their shared blanket of wool, coarse but warm. The fire in the corner has burned low, only embers remaining, glowing faintly like sleepy eyes. He watches them for a moment, this small heart of warmth in the room, and then he rises, quietly, so as not to wake anyone. His bare feet press into the packed earth floor, cool and solid. He pulls on his tunic, patched at the elbow, and wraps a scarf around his neck. There is no hurry. There is never hurry here. Only the next task, and the one after that, and the one after that, stretching out like the furrows he will walk today behind his old ox. He kneels by the hearth and gently blows on the coals, just enough to wake them. A few wisps of smoke curl upward, then a small flame licks at the dry twigs he places above. The fire grows not with a roar, but with a sigh, as if grateful to be remembered. He sets a blackened pot on the stones, pours in water from a clay jug, drops in a handful of oats saved from last harvest. Breakfast is not a meal to savor, but a ritual to sustain, a quiet beginning before the sun even clears the hills. Outside, the world is still wrapped in shadow. The thatched roofs of neighboring cottages exhale thin trails of smoke. A goat bleats softly in its pen. The air carries the scent of damp soil, of wood smoke, of yesterday's bread cooling in a basket. He steps outside, barefoot now, feeling the dew-soaked grass between his toes, cold and gentle. He looks up. The sky is softening, turning from black to deep blue, and a few stars still linger, fading slowly, like memories of night. He takes a breath, deep, slow, and begins to move. Not because he must, but because this is what his body knows. This is the rhythm written into his bones. Far away, in the royal chamber of a distant castle, the king also wakes, but not to silence. His eyes open to the sound of footsteps, soft and careful, as servants enter with basins of warm water, fresh linens, garments laid out with precision. No one speaks loudly. No one startles. They move like shadows trained in stillness. The king does not rise on his own. He is helped upright, wrapped in a robe lined with rabbit fur. His back aches, perhaps from sleeping too long, perhaps from carrying a crown too heavy for any man. He does not look out the window. He knows what he will see: manicured gardens, guards on patrol, the chapel spire piercing the pale sky. Instead, he lets them dress him, the doublet fastened button by button, the belt placed just so, the signet ring slid onto his finger like a key to a prison he cannot leave. His face shows nothing. Not exhaustion, not sorrow, not boredom. Only stillness. A mask worn so long it has become part of his skin. Downstairs, the great hall is already alive with quiet motion. Nobles arrive, bowing, speaking in low tones. Reports are brought, the state of the granaries, the cost of wheat, the movements of foreign envoys. The king listens. He nods. He signs documents with a hand that does not tremble. But inside, there is a hollow space, a quiet yearning for something unnamed, perhaps for a morning like the peasants, where waking means only the fire, the oats, the grass underfoot, and nothing more. The peasant carries a wooden bowl to his wife, steam curling from the oats. She sits up slowly, her hair loose and tangled, and takes it with both hands, warming her fingers. The child between them stirs, blinks once, then nestles closer to the warmth of her body. There is no talk of yesterday, no worry for tomorrow. Only this moment, the warmth of the bowl, the soft light now creeping through the window, the sound of the ox lowing in its shed. The peasant smiles, just slightly, not because anything joyful has happened, but because nothing has gone wrong. And in this life, that is enough. He steps outside again, this time with a leather bucket, and walks to the well at the edge of the yard. The rope is rough against his palms, the bucket heavy as it breaks the surface of the water deep below. He pulls it up, hand over hand, muscles moving without thought, like breath or heartbeat. He pours some into a trough for the animals, watches them drink with slow, satisfied gulps. The rooster struts past, tail feathers glinting faintly in the growing light. Life begins again, not with fanfare, but with routine, gentle, unremarkable, deeply familiar. Back in the castle, the king eats alone. Bread from the finest flour, butter churned that morning, honey from palace hives. A servant stands nearby, eyes lowered. The king takes a bite, chews, swallows. The food has no taste. Or perhaps it tastes too much of obligation. He looks down at his hands, clean, smooth, uncalloused. Hands that have never pulled a plow, never drawn water, never mended a roof. Hands that sign decrees affecting thousands, yet cannot fix a single broken thing on their own. A page enters with a message sealed in wax. The king breaks it open without interest. Another request for tax relief from a distant village. Another plea masked as loyalty. He sets it aside. It will join the others. Decisions wait, but they do not rush. Time here moves differently, not by sun or season, but by ceremony, by protocol, by the slow turning of power. Outside the castle walls, the sun rises fully now, spilling gold across fields, forests, rivers. Birds scatter from hedgerows, wings beating softly against the morning air. In the village, the peasant harnesses his ox, speaking to it in a low voice, not commands, but words of reassurance, of companionship. The animal blinks slowly, breath steaming in the cool air. They understand each other without language. Both know the path, the pace, the rhythm of the day ahead. As the peasant guides the plow through the dark soil, turning earth that has fed families for generations, the king walks through the garden, flanked by advisors. Flowers bloom in perfect rows, colors too vivid to be natural. Paths are swept clean of leaves. Everything is in order. Nothing grows wild. The king stops beside a fountain, watches water trickle from the mouth of a stone lion. It flows endlessly, going nowhere. He stares at it longer than necessary. No one asks if he is tired. No one dares. So he does not answer the question, even in silence. And you, listening, drifting, you need not choose between them. You need not pity one or envy the other. You are simply here, moving gently between two lives, neither better nor worse, only different in shape, in weight, in the way each man meets the morning. One begins with fire and oats, the other with silk and silence. One feels the earth beneath his feet, the other the crown upon his head. And yet, in this quiet hour, before the world demands more of them, they share something rare, a breath held in stillness, a moment untouched by urgency, a fleeting sense of being exactly where they are. The sun climbs higher. The village hums with small sounds, the creak of a cart, the clang of a blacksmith's hammer, a woman calling her child by name. The castle echoes with footsteps on stone, the rustle of parchment, the distant chime of a bell marking the hour. Two worlds, unfolding side by side, neither aware of the other, yet both carried forward by the same unseen current, the slow, endless turning of time. And you, still here, still listening, your breath slowing to match the pace of this telling, your thoughts softening like butter left in sunlight, you are not far from sleep now. Not rushing toward it, not chasing it, just letting it come, like dusk falling over the hills, like smoke rising from a cottage chimney, like the last star fading above the eastern field. Part 2. The Rhythm of Labor and Ceremony. The morning stretches out like a long breath held and slowly released as the peasant steps into the field behind his ox, the wooden plow biting gently into the dark, damp earth. The soil parts without resistance, turning over in neat, low ridges that catch the early light. There is no hurry in his movements, no need to rush, no one watching, no reward for finishing sooner. This work has been done this way for generations, and it will be done this way long after he is gone. His hands grip the handles of the plow, calloused and familiar, moving with a rhythm that feels less like effort and more like walking in sleep. Left foot, right foot, steady and even. The ox moves forward with quiet obedience, its breath slow and deep, its hooves pressing into the soft ground without drama. A crow lands on a fence post nearby, tilts its head, watches for a moment, then flaps away. Life here does not demand attention. It simply unfolds. You are beside him now, not walking, but floating just above the furrows, feeling the cool air brush against your skin, hearing the soft creak of leather harness, the occasional grunt of the animal, the whisper of soil falling away from the blade. There is no story here, no lesson to learn, only the quiet presence of work done without spectacle. He stops once to drink from his water skin, wipes his mouth with the back of his hand, looks up at the sky, not to check the time, but because the clouds are drifting slowly, like thoughts with no destination. He smiles faintly, not at anything in particular, but because the sun is warm on his face, and the pain in his lower back is bearable today. He resumes his path. The row is long, but not endless. And when it ends, another will begin. There is comfort in that. Back in the castle, the king sits at the high table in the council chamber, surrounded by men in fine wool and fur-lined cloaks. Papers are passed from hand to hand, voices rise and fall in careful modulation, never too loud, never too sharp. A report on grain yields from the northern provinces. A dispute between two lords over a stretch of forest. A request for permission to repair a bridge. The king listens, nods, speaks only when necessary. His words are measured, rehearsed, carrying weight he does not feel. He signs a document with a quill that scratches softly against parchment. The ink dries quickly in the still air. Another decision made. Another thread added to the tapestry of rule. But there is no satisfaction in it. No sense of completion. Only the knowledge that tomorrow will bring more papers, more voices, more choices that must be made not from desire, but from duty. His fingers tap once on the arm of the chair, just once, then still. No one notices. Or if they do not show it. Here, every gesture is observed, interpreted, remembered. Even silence is not truly his own. Later, in the late morning, the peasant rests beneath an old oak at the edge of the field. He sits with his back against the trunk, knees drawn up slightly, a piece of coarse bread in his hand. He eats slowly, chewing each bite thoroughly, savoring not the taste. There is little flavor, but the act of nourishment, of pause. A butterfly drifts past, wings flickering in the sunlight. He watches it without thought, letting his eyes follow its unsteady path until it disappears into the tall grass. His breathing slows. His eyelids grow heavy, not from exhaustion, but from peace. For a few minutes, he closes them. Not asleep, not awake, somewhere in between. The wind stirs the leaves above him, casting shifting patterns of light and shadow across his face. Time does not press here. It flows like water around stone. Inside the palace, the king walks through the great hall, flanked by guards whose boots echo on the stone floor. Portraits of ancestors line the walls, their eyes following him in silent judgment. He does not look at them. He knows their names, their victories, their failures. He carries them all like stones in his coat. A servant opens a door for him. He enters a small chapel, private, dimly lit, warmed by a single brazier. He kneels, not because he feels devout, but because it is expected. His lips move in silent prayer, though the words have long since lost meaning. What he truly prays for, if he allowed himself to name it, is a single hour with no decisions, no faces watching, no title clinging to his shoulders like a second skin. But he does not say that. He says the prescribed words. He rises. He returns to the world of meetings, of appearances, of being seen. Out in the village, the peasant's wife tends to the garden, pulling weeds by hand, her fingers deep in the cool soil. She hums a tune without melody, something she learned as a child, passed down from her mother. Her youngest sits nearby, poking at a pile of pebbles, arranging them in no particular order. The rhythm of the day is not broken by clocks or calendars, but by hunger, by light, by the natural ebb and flow of bodies needing rest or motion. When the sun climbs directly overhead, a bell rings from the small church on the hill, soft, distant, unhurried. It is time for the midday meal. The peasant unhitches the ox, pats its neck, leads it to shade and water. He walks home barefoot, dust on his feet, sweat drying on his brow. The smell of stew simmering over the fire greets him before he sees the cottage. Inside, the family gathers, no formality, no ceremony. They eat from shared bowls, pass bread without words, drink water from the same jug. The child laughs at nothing, then falls quiet, head nodding. The wife rests her hand on the girl's back, feeling the slow rise and fall of her breath. Outside, a cat stretches in a patch of sunlight. A bee hovers above a blooming herb. The world continues, gently, quietly, without fanfare. And you, listening, drifting, your breath now deeper, slower, your thoughts beginning to float like leaves on a still pond, you are moving further into this calm, further away from the noise of your day. You do not need to hold on to these words. You can let them wash over you like a breeze through an open window, like the sound of distant rain, like the soft creak of a rocking chair on a porch at twilight. There is nothing to remember, nothing to solve. Only this moment, this pace, this gentle descent into rest. The king does not rest at midday. There is no such custom for him. Instead, he receives a visiting noble from the western lands, flanked by attendants, dressed in embroidered velvet, bearing gifts wrapped in silk. They exchange pleasantries in the receiving hall, where tapestries hang heavy on the walls, depicting battles long forgotten. The king smiles, just enough to be polite, not enough to seem warm. Wine is poured into silver goblets, but he sips only once. The conversation flows like a river over stones, smooth on the surface, full of hidden currents beneath. Alliances are hinted at, grievances softened with careful words, promises made that will later be quietly undone. The noble laughs at the king's mild joke. The king laughs in return. Neither means it. Afterward, alone in his study for a brief moment, the king removes his outer robe and sits by the window. He watches a sparrow land on the sill, pecking at a crumb left from breakfast. It hops once, twice, then flies away. Such freedom. Not freedom from danger, but freedom from performance. The bird does not need to be anything for anyone. It simply is. He leans back, closes his eyes for only a few breaths. No one enters. No one dares interrupt this silence. And yet, even in stillness, he is not free. His mind returns to the meeting, replays a phrase, wonders if he conceded too much, if the noble will press further. The weight is not in the decisions, but in their endless repetition. Back in the village, the peasant lies on his side in the shade of the cottage, one arm tucked beneath his head, the other resting across his stomach. His wife sits nearby, mending a shirt with small, precise stitches. The child sleeps curled against her leg, thumb in her mouth, face relaxed in dreamless peace. A fly buzzes lazily near the door, then settles on the windowsill. The fire has died to embers again. The bowl of stew sits empty beside him. Time here does not march. It breathes. He listens, to the wind in the thatch, to the distant lowing of a cow, to the soft sound of his wife's needle pulling thread through cloth. These are not noises to block out, but signs of life continuing, undramatic and true. He thinks of nothing urgent. Not the next row to plow, not the roof that will need repair in autumn, not the ache in his shoulder that flares when it rains. Those things exist, yes, but they do not demand attention now. Now is for stillness. Now is for being. Later, as the sun begins its slow descent, painting the western sky in soft washes of amber and gray, the peasant walks down the path toward the stream. He carries a wooden bucket, though he doesn't need water yet. He goes because the evening calls him, not with words, but with light, with coolness, with the scent of wet stone and moss. He stands at the bank, watching the water glide over smooth rocks, breaking briefly around a fallen branch, then merging again downstream. A dragonfly hovers above the surface, wings catching the fading gold. He fills the bucket slowly, not in haste, just because the motion feels right. Then he sits on a flat stone, feet near the edge, and watches the ripples settle. There is no meaning here, no lesson to take away. Only presence. Only this moment, unburdened by past or future. He breathes in deeply, fully, and breathes out, slower, longer. His shoulders drop. His jaw unclenches. The day is not over, but its labor is done. In the castle, the king changes into evening attire, lighter than the day's robes, but still layered, still formal. He attends a small supper in the great hall. Musicians play softly in the corner, their melodies looping like vines. Nobles speak in low tones, laughter rising occasionally, always measured. He eats a little, roast fowl, stewed pears, bread dipped in honeyed butter, but tastes none of it. His mind wanders to the morning, to the garden, to the sparrow on the windowsill. He imagines walking barefoot through a field, feeling mud between his toes, lying down in the grass without permission, without ceremony. He imagines no one knowing who he is. But he does not say this aloud. He cannot. So he remains seated, upright, silent, nodding at the right moments, lifting his glass when others do. The candles burn lower. The music fades. One by one, guests bow and withdraw. The guards shift positions. The night deepens. And you, listening, drifting, your body heavier now, your thoughts softer, more distant, you are no longer following the story so much as floating within it. You are not the peasant, not the king, not even yourself as you were an hour ago. You are something quieter, something simpler, a presence resting in the space between breaths, between heartbeats, between one slow word and the next. You don't need to stay awake any longer. You don't need to remember what comes next. Just let the voice carry you, like a leaf caught in a gentle current, moving downstream, deeper into the hush, deeper into the dark, deeper into sleep. Part 3. The quiet hours between light and dark. As the sun slips lower behind the hills, painting the sky in soft layers of lavender and dusky gold, the village settles into the quiet rhythm of late afternoon, a time not for work, not yet for sleep, but for the gentle unwinding of the day. Smoke rises once more from cottage chimneys, thin and slow, curling into the cooling air like thoughts too faint to name. A woman sits outside her door, shelling peas into a wooden bowl, her fingers moving without haste, dropping each pod with a soft tap. A dog lies stretched across the dirt path, belly warm in the last patch of sunlight, ears twitching at distant sounds. Children who had been running through the fields now sit quietly, drawing shapes in the dust with sticks, then erasing them with their palms. No one calls for them. There is nowhere they need to be. You are here among them, not walking, not speaking, simply present, your breath slowing, your body sinking deeper into stillness. You feel the warmth of the fading sun on your skin, the coolness rising from the earth beneath you, the soft hum of life continuing without effort. There is no urgency in this hour. No demands. Only the natural drift toward rest, like a boat gently untethered, floating downstream. Inside the peasant's cottage, the fire is lit again, not for cooking, not yet, but for company. The flame dances low, casting flickering shadows on the walls, patterns that shift and melt like memories. His wife sits by the hearth, spinning wool on a simple wheel, the spindle turning with a quiet, rhythmic whir. He sits across from her, mending a worn leather strap with coarse thread, his hand steady, his eyes half closed. The child sleeps nearby, curled on a pile of blankets, one hand tucked under her cheek. A cat stretches, yawns, then settles into the curve of her legs. Time here does not measure itself in minutes, but in breaths, in blinks, and the slow dimming of light through the small window. He looks up once, not at anything in particular, but just to see, the way the smoke curls from the chimney hole above, the way his wife's hair catches the firelight, the way the child's chest rises and falls in perfect peace. He does not smile, not exactly, but something in his face softens, as if he has briefly remembered how to be grateful without naming it. He returns to his work. The strap will hold another season. The fire will burn another night. The world will turn, as it always does. Far from the village, within the high stone walls of the royal castle, the afternoon also deepens, but differently. The corridors are quieter now, the advisors withdrawn, the meetings concluded. The king walks alone through the east wing, his footsteps muffled by thick tapestries hanging from the walls. He stops before a window overlooking the inner courtyard, where gardeners are putting away their tools, baskets empty, hands stained with soil. One of them hums a tune, simple, wordless, familiar. The king listens. He does not recognize the melody, but it feels old, like something passed down through generations of people who have never stood where he stands. He rests his palm against the cold stone sill. The sun touches only the tops of the towers. Below, shadow has already claimed the courtyards. He thinks of the gardener's hands, rough, capable, unafraid of dirt. Hands that grow things. Hands that fix things. Hands that know the weight of real labor. His own hands, clean and smooth, have signed treaties, held scepters, blessed newborns, but they have never planted a seed, never built a fence, never warmed themselves over an open fire without ceremony. A servant passes behind him, bows silently, continues on. The king does not turn. He remains at the window, watching as the gardeners leave, their silhouettes small against the fading light. He wonders what it would be like to walk among them, unrecognized, to carry a basket, to feel the ache of honest work in his arms and back, to eat bread that someone else had baked without regard for rank or ritual. But such thoughts do not last long. A page appears, bearing a message, a minor dispute between stewards over grain storage. The king exhales, almost imperceptibly, then turns away from the window. The moment dissolves like mist. He follows the page down the hall, his steps measured, his expression unreadable once more. Back in the village, twilight deepens. The stars begin to appear, one at first, then two, then a scattered handful across the vast dome of sky. The air grows cooler, carrying the scent of damp grass and wood smoke. The peasant stands at his doorway, looking out. He does not scan the horizon for danger, nor calculate the days until harvest. He simply looks up at the sky, out over the field, across the sleeping land. There is no need to understand it. It is enough that it is there. His wife joins him, wrapping a shawl around her shoulders. They do not speak. They stand side by side, breathing in sync, watching as the darkness settles like a blanket. Somewhere in the distance, an owl calls, soft, low, unhurried. Another answers farther off. The world is not asleep yet, but it is slowing, preparing. Inside, the fire still glows. The child stirs slightly, murmurs in her sleep, then quiets again. A pot hangs over the embers, warming milk with a pinch of honey, a small comfort for later, if she wakes cold. Life here moves in circles, waking, working, resting, repeating, not with monotony, but with harmony. Each day blends into the next like waves on a shore, distinct only in memory. And you, listening, drifting, your breath now long and even, your thoughts like feathers caught in a slow breeze, you are moving further into this calm, further away from the sharp edges of the day. You don't need to hold on. You don't need to follow every word. Just let them wash over you, like the sound of wind through tall grass, like the hush between heartbeats, like the silence that comes when all is finally still. The king sits in his private chamber, a book open on his lap, though he has not turned a page in some time. A single candle burns beside him, its flame steady in the draftless room. He stares at the text, Latin script, gilded letters, a treatise on governance, but sees none of it. His mind is elsewhere, somewhere soft and undefined, like a dream just beyond recall. He thinks of childhood, before the crown, before the weight of title, running through gardens with no destination, climbing trees without permission, lying in the grass until the dew soaked through his clothes. No one called him Your Majesty then. No one bowed. He was simply a boy, small and unimportant, and for that, he was free. A servant enters silently, refills the goblet with warm spiced wine, bows, and retreats. The king lifts the cup, but does not drink. The steam rises, curls upward, vanishes. He closes the book gently, places it aside. There is no one to see, no one to impress. Still, he does not relax. His shoulders remain tense, his posture upright, as if even in solitude, he must perform the role of a man at rest. He walks to the window again. The courtyard below is empty now. Torches flicker in iron sconces, casting long, wavering shadows. The stars above are clearer here than in the village, unobscured by wood smoke, untainted by the glow of hearths, but they feel farther away, less intimate. They do not belong to him. They belong to no one. And yet, he cannot help but feel that he belongs to them even less. In the village, the peasant and his wife sit by the fire, their faces lit softly by the embers. They speak in low voices, not about the day's work, not about worries, but of small things, a bird that nested too close to the roof, a neighbor's cow that gave birth early, the way the wind sounded last night, like someone walking through the rye. Their words are not important. What matters is the sound of them, the rhythm, the warmth between speaker and listener. Sometimes, they fall silent for long stretches, and the silence is not empty, it is full, like the space between notes in a slow song. The child wakes briefly, rubs her eyes, murmurs something unintelligible. The mother gathers her close, hums the same tuneless melody from earlier, strokes her hair until she sinks back into sleep. The father watches them both, not with longing, not with pride, but with quiet recognition, a moment so ordinary, so fleeting, that only later, if ever, will he realize how deeply it lived in him. Outside, the night deepens. A fox moves through the edge of the woods, silent and deliberate, pausing once to listen, then continuing on. The moon rises slowly, pale and calm, casting a silver path across the still surface of the pond. Bats flit through the air above the meadow, catching insects unseen. The world breathes in darkness, unafraid. Back in the castle, the king removes his outer robe and sits again, this time without formality. He leans forward slightly, elbows on knees, hands hanging loose. For a few breaths, he allows himself to be still, not as a king, not as a ruler, not as a symbol, but as a man who is tired, who carries more than he can name, who sometimes wishes for a life where no one knows his face. But the thought does not stay. It slips away like water through fingers. He straightens, adjusts his posture, calls for his attendants. The ritual of bedtime begins, the washing of hands, the brushing of hair, the donning of sleeping garments stitched with silver thread. Every motion is attended, observed, completed with precision. He lies down beneath heavy linens, head on a pillow stuffed with goose down. The candle is extinguished. Darkness fills the room. Yet sleep does not come quickly. His mind drifts, not to wars, not to rebellions, but to small absences. The smell of bread baking in an open oven. The sound of children laughing without restraint. The feeling of bare feet on warm earth. Things he has seen, but never truly known. In the village, the peasant blows out the oil lamp. The fire is covered with ash to keep the coals alive through the night. He lies down beside his wife, feels the familiar shape of her body next to his, hears the soft rhythm of her breathing. The child stirs once, nestles closer to her mother. The cat leaps onto the foot of the bed, circles twice, then settles with a quiet sigh. There is no grand meaning in this moment. No lesson. No revelation. Only the simple truth of being together, safe, warm, alive. And you, listening, drifting, your breath now slow and deep, your thoughts dissolving like sugar in warm tea, you are no longer following the story. You are inside it, floating within it, letting it carry you further into stillness, further into peace. You don't need to stay awake any longer. You don't need to remember anything. Just let go. Let the voice guide you, like a hand leading you through a darkened hall, like a breeze moving through an open window, like the hush that comes when the world finally rests. Part 4. The warmth of shelter. Night has settled fully now, wrapping the land in a deep and gentle hush, as if the world itself has drawn a blanket over its shoulders and turned toward sleep. In the village, the last traces of firelight glow faintly through the cracks of cottage shutters, soft orange pulses behind thick glass or oiled cloth. The air is cool but not cold, carrying the scent of damp earth, wood smoke, and the faint sweetness of wild mint crushed underfoot earlier in the day. A cricket chirps from beneath a stone, its rhythm slow and steady, like a heartbeat measured in seconds. Somewhere, a door creaks shut. A dog sighs in its sleep. The stars above burn with a quiet constancy, unmoving, unblinking, watching over a world that no longer watches back. You are here, not walking, not thinking, simply resting within this stillness, your breath matching the pace of the night, your body growing heavier, softer, more yielding with each passing moment. There is nothing to do. Nothing to fix. No past to revisit, no future to plan. Only this warmth, this darkness, this slow descent into the arms of sleep. Inside the peasant's cottage, The family lies close together beneath layers of woolen blankets, their bodies aligned by habit, by need, by love too quiet to name. The fire has been banked for the night, covered with ash to hold its warmth until morning. Embers still pulse beneath, glowing like distant lanterns seen through fog. The child stirs slightly, murmuring something lost to dreams, then settles again, one small hand curled near her face. The cat shifts at the foot of the bed, stretching one paw into the air before tucking it back in. The man listens, to his wife's breathing, to the creak of the wooden frame beneath them, to the occasional pop of cooling stone in the hearth. These are not sounds to block out. They are signs of shelter, signs of safety, signs that all is well. He does not think about tomorrow's work. He does not worry about the weather, about the price of grain, about anything beyond this room, this warmth, this breath. His body aches in familiar places, the shoulder, the lower back, the soles of his feet, but the ache is not sharp. It is dull, almost comforting, like the memory of motion, proof that he lived today fully, honestly, without pretense. He turns his head slightly on the pillow stuffed with dried lavender and straw, inhales the faint herbal scent, feels the coarse weave of the linen against his cheek. These small comforts are not luxuries. They are ordinary. And because they are ordinary, they are enough. Outside, the wind moves through the fields like a slow hand brushing across fabric, bending the stalks of rye just enough to catch the moonlight before letting them rise again. A fox pads silently along the tree line, pauses, sniffs the air, then continues on its nightly path. The pond reflects the sky perfectly, undisturbed, a mirror of stars floating in black water. Time here does not rush. It lingers, like smoke, like breath, like the final note of a lullaby hummed long after the child has fallen asleep. In the castle, the king lies alone in his vast bed, surrounded by silence so complete it feels unnatural. Thick tapestries muffle the wind outside. Double-paned glass keeps the night air at bay. A brazier glows softly in the corner, radiating heat without flame, tended hourly by unseen hands. The sheets are fine linen, cool and smooth against his skin. The pillows are plump, the mattress layered with down so soft it seems to swallow his body whole. Everything has been designed for comfort. And yet, comfort does not come. He stares up at the canopy above, embroidered with golden threads forming coats of arms, battle scenes, celestial patterns meant to inspire awe. But in the dark, they blur into shadow, meaningless shapes twisting in the dim light. He turns onto his side, then onto his back. He adjusts the pillow. He pulls the covers higher. He closes his eyes. But sleep remains distant, like a shore scene across a wide river. He thinks of the villagers, not with pity, not with envy, but with quiet curiosity. Do they feel safer than he does? Do they sleep more deeply, not because of warm blankets or full stomachs, but because they belong to their lives in a way he never has belonged to his? He has power, yes. He has wealth, security, armies sworn to protect him. And yet, in the deepest part of the night, when all is silent and no one is watching, he sometimes wonders if safety is not found in walls or guards, but in belonging. A servant once told him that peasants fear many things, hunger, illness, storms, but rarely the dark. The king did not understand then. Now, lying awake, he begins to. The dark, to them, is not an enemy. It is a cover. A companion. A return to the same quiet that cradled them as children. They do not need torches to feel safe. They need only the sound of a loved one breathing nearby, the warmth of a shared bed, the knowledge that tomorrow will ask no more of them than they can give. Here, there is no one beside him. No breath to listen to. No hand to touch. The bed is too large. The room too grand. The silence too loud. He closes his eyes again, focuses on his breath, in, slowly, deeply, out, longer, softer. He imagines lying in a small cottage, the roof low above him, the fire dim, the air thick with the smell of stew and wet wool. He imagines a child sleeping nearby, a dog curled at the door, a woman humming as she darns a sock. He imagines being tired not from ruling, but from living. From walking, from working, from loving. And for a brief moment, his body relaxes. His jaw unclenches. His shoulders drop. The weight lifts, just slightly, just enough. Then a guard coughs in the hall. A door clicks shut. The spell breaks. But it does not matter. The thought has been there. The longing has touched him, gently, like a breeze through an open window. Back in the village, the peasant dreams, not of kings, not of palaces, not of escape. He dreams of walking through his field at dawn, the soil soft underfoot, the sky pale with coming light. He dreams of his daughter laughing as she chases a butterfly, her bare feet kicking up dust. He dreams of sitting by the fire, spinning a story his father once told him, words half remembered, tone perfectly clear. The dream has no plot, no conflict, no end. It simply is. And you, listening, drifting, your breath now slow and even, your thoughts like leaves sinking into still water, you are moving deeper into this peace, deeper into this hush. You don't need to hold on. You don't need to remember. Just let the voice carry you, like a current guiding you downstream, like the warmth of a blanket settling over your shoulders, like the silence that comes when all is finally still. The child in the cottage stirs again, not waking, but shifting in the deep cradle of sleep, her small body curling instinctively toward the warmth of her mother's side. A sigh escapes her lips, soft, content, like the release of a breath held too long. The fire's embers glow faintly beneath their bed of ash, radiating just enough heat to keep the chill at bay, to remind the room that life still lingers in the coals. The man watches her for a moment, though his eyes are nearly closed, his mind drifting between wakefulness and dream. He does not think in words anymore. There is no need. The night speaks in sensations, the weight of the blanket, the rhythm of breathing nearby, the distant hoot of an owl calling across the valley. These are the only truths he needs. Outside, the moon hangs low over the hills, casting long shadows that stretch like fingers across the fields. Dew forms on blades of grass, each drop catching the starlight for a fleeting instant before slipping into the soil. A hedgehog moves slowly through the underbrush, snuffling softly as it searches for beetles in the dark. The world is alive, but quietly, gently, without demand. No one must witness it. It simply continues, as it has for centuries, as it will for centuries more. In the castle, the king finally sleeps, but not deeply. His rest is thin, like mist over a pond, easily broken. He dreams, but his dreams are crowded, faces without names, corridors that stretch too long, voices speaking in languages he almost understands. He walks through vast halls where no one sees him, calls out but hears only echoes. He stands at windows looking down at empty courtyards, searching for something he cannot name. The dream does not frighten him. It simply wears him, like a garment too heavy for the season. And then, for a few breaths, it shifts. He finds himself standing in a field at twilight, barefoot, wearing simple clothes made of rough-spun wool. The air is cool, the sky streaked with soft color. In the distance, a woman stirs a pot over an open fire. A child runs toward him, laughing, arms outstretched. He reaches down, and for the first time in the dream, he feels something real. Warmth. Connection. Belonging. But the moment does not last. A bell tolls, faint at first, then louder. A servant's voice murmurs beyond the door. The dream dissolves like smoke. The king opens his eyes to the dark canopy above, the silence pressing in once more. He does not move. He lies still, listening to his own breath, feeling the emptiness beside him. The brazier flickers, casting wavering shadows on the walls. Time passes. He does not know how much. Back in the village, the peasant wakes briefly, not because of noise, not because of discomfort, but because the dog outside barks once, softly, at something unseen. He listens. The wind rustles the thatch. The child breathes steadily. The cat purrs in its sleep. All is well. He closes his eyes again, not needing to check, not needing to verify. He knows this peace. He trusts it. There is a kind of safety here that no fortress can provide, a safety built not of stone or steel, but of routine, of familiarity, of belonging. The door is not locked. The shutters are not barred. And yet, he feels no fear. Danger exists, yes, storms, illness, lean winters, but they come from nature, not from men plotting in shadowed rooms. Here, the threat is known. It can be faced. It does not whisper in the dark. He drifts back into sleep, not with effort, but with surrender. His body sinks deeper into the straw mattress, his breath slowing further, matching the rhythm of the house, of the night, of the earth itself. There is no division between him and the world. He is part of it, just another creature resting beneath the stars, warmed by fire, sheltered by wood and thatch. And you, listening, floating, your awareness softening like butter left in sunlight, you are moving deeper now, further into the hush, further away from the edges of thought. You don't need to follow the story anymore. You don't need to remember who is who, what is what. Just let the voice carry you, like a leaf drifting on a slow river, like the last note of a lullaby fading into silence, like the moment just before sleep when the mind lets go completely. You are safe here. You are warm. You are not alone. The night continues, long, quiet, unhurried. The stars turn slowly overhead. The moon begins its descent behind the western ridge. The air grows cooler, but the homes hold their warmth. The animals rest. The trees stand guard. The earth breathes. And so do you. In, slowly. Out, even slower. Each breath softer than the last. Each thought lighter, fainter, farther away. You don't need to stay awake. You don't need to listen. Part 5, the slow descent into rest. The deepest part of the night has arrived, the hour when even dreams grow quiet, when the world seems to pause between breaths, suspended in a stillness so complete it feels sacred. Outside, the stars shine with a steady, unhurried light, scattered across the sky like salt spilled on dark velvet. The moon now hangs low over the western hills, its glow softer, more diffuse, as if it too is growing drowsy. A faint mist begins to rise from the meadow, drifting slowly over the grass, settling in the hollows between fields. No birds call. No animals move. Even the wind has stilled, leaving only silence, thick, warm, and full of rest. You are here within this silence, not thinking, not striving, simply existing in the space between one breath and the next. Your body feels heavy now, anchored to the bed, to the chair, to the earth itself. Your breath comes slow and deep, each inhale drawing in calm, each exhale releasing what no longer serves you. There is nothing to do. Nothing to remember. No past to carry, no future to meet. Only this moment, soft, boundless, safe. In the peasant's cottage, the fire has burned down to a single ember, glowing faintly beneath the ash, pulsing like a tiny heart. The family sleeps deeply now, their breathing slow and even, rising and falling in gentle unison. The child lies on her back, one arm flung above her head, fingers relaxed, lips slightly parted. The cat has curled itself into a tight circle at the foot of the bed, nose tucked beneath its tail. The man sleeps on his side, facing his wife, close enough to feel the warmth of her body without touching. His face is smooth, untroubled, free of the lines that daylight sometimes brings. He does not dream of labor, of loss, of worry. He dreams of walking through a sunlit orchard, the air sweet with ripening apples, the ground soft beneath his bare feet. He does not hurry. He does not speak. He simply walks, content in the knowing that there is nowhere else he needs to be. His last waking memory was simple, the sound of his wife blowing out the oil lamp, the brief darkness before his eyes adjusted, the warmth of the blanket pulled up to his shoulders. He did not pray. He did not reflect. He simply closed his eyes, exhaled, and let go. And sleep came like a familiar guest, arriving without announcement, settling in without disturbance. Far from the village, within the high stone walls of the castle, the king also sleeps, but his rest is shallower, his body less surrendered. The room is warm, perfectly still, guarded against draught and noise. The brazier continues to glow, tended by servants who come and go without a sound. The sheets remain smooth, undisturbed by tossing or turning. And yet, something in his posture remains guarded, one hand resting near his chest, fingers slightly curled, as if holding onto something unseen. He dreams again, but this time, the dream is simpler. He stands at the edge of a forest, wearing plain clothes, carrying a wooden staff. There are no titles here. No crowns. No expectations. A path winds ahead, disappearing into the trees. He does not know where it leads. He does not need to. He steps forward, feeling the damp earth beneath his boots, hearing the rustle of leaves above. Birds call softly. Sunlight filters through the canopy in golden shafts. He walks for a long time, saying nothing, meeting no one. And for the first time in the dream, he feels light. Unburdened. Free. Then, faintly, a sound breaks through, the distant chime of a bell, marking the hour. It does not wake him, not fully, but it ripples through the dream like a stone dropped in water. The forest fades. The path dissolves. He opens his eyes to darkness, disoriented for only a breath, then stills. He does not sit up. He does not call for a servant. He simply lies there, listening to his own breath, feeling the weight of the down comforter, the silence of the room. For a few moments, he stays in the afterglow of the dream, clinging gently to the feeling of freedom, of anonymity, of walking without purpose. It lingers like the scent of rain on dry soil, faint, fleeting, but real. He knows it will fade by morning. He knows he will return to the throne, to the council, to the endless cycle of duty. But for now, in this quiet hour, he allows himself to remember what it felt like to be nobody, to belong nowhere, and yet to feel completely at peace. Back in the village, the rooster stirs in his coop, shifting on his perch, feathers ruffling in his sleep. Soon, he will call the dawn, but not yet. There is still time. The night is long, and the world is not ready to wake. A mouse scurries behind the wall, pauses, listens, then continues on its small journey. The ember in the hearth flickers once, dimly, then glows steady again. The family breathes together, a quiet chorus of life continuing in rest. And you, listening, drifting, your awareness now thin as mist, your thoughts dissolving like sugar in warm milk, you are no longer following the story. You are inside it, floating within it, letting it carry you deeper, further, into the soft embrace of sleep. You don't need to hold on. You don't need to stay awake. You don't need to remember anything at all. Just breathe. Just rest. Just let go. The night holds you. The silence surrounds you. The voice guides you, slowly, gently, without rush, into the deepest, safest place you know. Sleep is not far now. It is already here. It is already you. The village lies wrapped in stillness, a quiet cradle nestled between earth and sky, where even time seems to soften its edges. The last ember in the hearth has finally cooled, leaving behind only ash and memory. The stars, once sharp and bright, now blur slightly as dawn begins its slow approach from beyond the eastern hills. It is not yet light, not quite, just a faint thinning of the dark, a whisper that morning is on its way, though it makes no hurry. The world is not ready to wake. It lingers in sleep, breathing deeply, holding onto the night like a child clinging to a dream. You are here within this hush, not thinking, not remembering, simply resting in the space between worlds, the space between waking and sleeping, between doing and being, between self and silence. Your breath comes slower now, longer, each exhale a soft release, each inhale a gentle return. There is nothing to solve, nothing to feel, no past to carry, no future to meet. Just this warmth, this darkness, this endless moment of letting go. In the cottage, the peasant stirs, not because he must, but because his body knows the rhythm of the earth. He does not open his eyes right away. He lies still, feeling the weight of the blanket, the warmth of his wife beside him, the faint scent of lavender from the pillow. He listens, to the child's breath, steady and soft, to the cat's quiet purr at the foot of the bed, to the distant drip of dew falling from the eaves outside. These are not sounds to interpret. They are signs that all is well, that life continues, that he is home. He turns his head slightly, sees the first pale glow through the window, gray, gentle, unhurried. He does not rise yet. He does not need to. There will be time for work, for walking, for plowing the next row. But not now. Now is for stillness. Now is for being awake without moving, for feeling the quiet joy of a body rested, a mind unburdened, a heart at peace. Outside, the mist rises again, drifting low over the fields like a breath exhaled by the earth itself. A rabbit slips from its burrow, pauses, ears twitching, then hops slowly across the path. The stream murmurs over smooth stones, unchanged, unimpressed by time. The trees stand tall and silent, their roots deep in the soil, their branches reaching toward the fading stars. Nothing rushes. Nothing demands. The day unfolds not with urgency, but with grace. Back in the castle, the king wakes slowly, not to music or ceremony, but to silence. The room is dim, lit only by the faintest trace of dawn seeping through the glass. No servant enters yet. For a few rare moments, he is alone, not as a ruler, not as a symbol, but simply as a man who has slept, however briefly, however lightly. He lies still, eyes open, staring at the canopy above. The golden threads catch no light yet. The coats of arms are hidden in shadow. He is, for now, unnamed. He thinks of the dream, the forest path, the plain clothes, the freedom of walking without purpose. It feels farther away now, like a memory from another life. And yet, it leaves behind a quiet imprint, like the warmth of sunlight on skin after stepping indoors. He does not speak of it. He may never speak of it. But it was real. And for a time, he was free. A servant enters softly, bearing water, fresh linens, the day's garments folded with care. The ritual begins again, the washing, the dressing, the slow reassembling of the king. The crown is not placed yet, but it waits, polished and cold, on a velvet cushion. He does not look at it. He allows himself to be dressed, to be prepared, to be returned to his role. His face shows nothing. His hands do not tremble. He is ready. And yet, somewhere beneath the surface, something has shifted, so slight, so quiet, that only the deepest part of him notices. For one breath, just one, he remembers what it felt like to be nobody. To walk without title. To rest without permission. In the village, the peasant rises at last. He steps barefoot onto the cool earth floor, pulls on his tunic, wraps the scarf around his neck. He kneels by the hearth, gently brushes aside the ash, places a few dry twigs over the cold stones. He blows softly, steadily, until a small flame flickers to life. He adds a piece of kindling, then another. The fire grows, not fast, not loud, but sure. It will warm the room. It will boil the water. It will begin the day. His wife wakes soon after, sits up slowly, smiles at him, no words, just a look that says, "I am here. We are here. Another day has come." He hands her a cup of warm water with honey. She takes it, wraps her hands around it, closes her eyes for a moment, savoring the heat. The child stirs, rubs her eyes, reaches out. The man lifts her, settles her on his lap. The cat stretches, yawns, jumps down to search for food. Life begins again, not with fanfare, not with drama, but with small, familiar acts of care. Of warmth. Of presence. And you, listening, drifting, your breath now slow and deep, your thoughts like feathers sinking into still water, you are no longer following the story. You are inside it. Part of it. Letting it carry you further into peace, further into rest, further into sleep. You don't need to stay awake. You don't need to remember. You don't need to do anything at all. Just let go. Let the voice guide you, like a hand leading you through a darkened hall, like a breeze moving through an open window, like the hush that comes when the world finally rests. Sleep is not something you reach. It is something you allow. And it is already here. Part 6, When the World Forgets Titles. There is a moment, just before dawn fully arrives, when the world holds its breath, a stillness so complete it feels like the earth itself is pausing between heartbeats. The sky is no longer black, but not yet bright. It exists in a soft, nameless shade of gray, like ash mixed with milk, like memory fading into dream. Stars linger faintly, their light dimming as if slowly closing their eyes. The mist rests low over the fields, curling around fence posts and tree trunks, moving without wind, as if guided by unseen hands. No birds sing yet. No doors creak open. Even the stream flows more quietly, as though not to disturb the hush. You are here within this silence, not thinking, not remembering, not even listening, simply resting in the space where sound dissolves and thought slows to a drift. Your breath comes slow and deep, each exhale longer than the last, each inhale softer, quieter, until it feels less like breathing and more like being breathed by the night itself. There is nothing to do. Nothing to feel. No past to carry, no future to meet. Just this warmth, this darkness, this endless moment of letting go. In the village, the peasant sits by the hearth, watching the fire grow from ember to flame. He does not rush. He does not speak. He simply waits, one hand resting on his knee, the other gently cradling a wooden bowl of porridge warming near the heat. His wife stirs beside him, wrapping a shawl around her shoulders, humming a tune too old to have a name. The child sleeps on, curled beneath the blanket, one foot peeking out, toes twitching in a dream. The cat lies stretched across the warm stones, belly up, paws loose in surrender. Life here does not announce itself. It simply continues, gently, quietly, without need for witness. Outside, the first pale light touches the thatched roofs, turning them from shadow into shape. A spider's web strung between two fence posts glistens with dew, each strand catching the faint glow like tiny threads of silver. Somewhere, a cow lows softly, not loud, not urgent, just a sound of presence, of being awake. The air is cool, but not cold. It carries the scent of damp soil, of wood smoke, of yesterday's bread cooling in the basket. Time here does not measure itself in minutes, but in breaths, in blinks, in the slow unfurling of light across the land. Far from the village, within the high stone walls of the castle, the king stands at his window once more, dressed now in the full weight of his station, velvet doublet, gold chain, boots polished to a mirror shine. The crown rests upon his head, heavy, cold, unyielding. Servants move quietly behind him, preparing the day's schedule, unrolling parchments, whispering updates. But for a few breaths, he does not turn. He watches the horizon, where the sky begins to blush with the faintest hint of rose. He sees the same dawn as the peasant. He feels the same coolness in the air. He hears the same distant call of a waking bird. And for a moment, just one, he allows himself to forget who he is. No titles. No duties. No expectations. Just a man standing at a window, watching the night fade, feeling the quiet before the world begins again. He thinks of the dream, the forest path, the plain clothes, the freedom of walking without purpose. He thinks of the cottage fire, the shared bowl, the child sleeping peacefully in her mother's arms. He thinks of belonging. Then a servant clears his throat. A page calls his title. The moment passes. He turns. He nods. He walks forward. The king returns. But something, small, quiet, unseen, remains behind in that breath of stillness. Back in the village, the peasant rises, carries the porridge to the table, places a spoon beside each bowl. His wife joins him. They eat slowly, savoring not the taste, but the warmth, the companionship, the simple truth of being together. The child wakes, rubs her eyes, climbs onto his lap. He wraps an arm around her, feeds her a small bite, wipes her chin with his sleeve. No words are needed. None are spoken. The fire crackles softly. The cat stretches. The light grows. And you, listening, drifting, your body now heavy with rest, your mind soft as down, your thoughts like leaves sinking into still water, you are no longer following the story. You are inside it, floating within it, letting it carry you deeper, further, into the hush, into the dark, into sleep. Because in the end, none of it matters, the crown, the straw bed, the palace, the cottage. Not really. When the lights go out and the breath slows, when the mind lets go and the body sinks, we are all the same. We all close our eyes. We all dream. We all return, for a time, to the same quiet place. The peasant sleeps. The king sleeps. And so do you. Not as someone important. Not as someone burdened. Not as someone striving. Just as yourself. Soft. Still. Safe. Let the voice fade now. Let the words blur. Let the breath lead you down, deeper, slower, further, into the arms of sleep, into the peace of forgetting, into the gentle dark where nothing is asked of you. You don't need to stay awake. You don't need to listen. You don't need to be anything at all. Just rest. Just breathe. Just sleep. The night holds you. The silence surrounds you. And you are already there. The fire in the cottage has burned low again, not out, but resting, its glow reduced to a soft orange pulse beneath a thin layer of ash, like the heartbeat of the house itself. The porridge bowls have been rinsed and set aside. The child, now fully awake but still quiet, sits near the door, poking at a piece of dried bread, crumbling it slowly between her fingers. A fly drifts through the open doorway, circles once, then lands on the windowsill, still as a speck of dust. No one shoos it away. There is no need. Time does not press here. It simply flows, like water around stone, like breath through sleeping lungs. You are still here, not quite awake, not quite dreaming, floating in that soft borderland where stories dissolve and sensation remains. Your body feels heavy, anchored in stillness. Your breath moves without effort, slow and deep, each exhale longer than the last, like a wave retreating from shore. You don't need to hold on to these words. You don't need to remember them. Just let them wash over you, like wind through tall grass, like the distant sound of rain on a roof you'll never see. Outside, the mist begins to lift, rising like steam from warm earth, curling into the air before vanishing into the light. The fields emerge slowly, their furrows soft and dark, glistening with dew. A sparrow hops across the path, pecks at a crumb, tilts its head at nothing, then flutters to a fence post. The sun is not yet high, but its presence is felt, a gentle warmth on the skin, a golden edge on the clouds. The world is waking, but gently, without rush, as if aware that not everyone is ready. In the castle, the king has taken his seat at the council table once more. Papers are passed. Voices rise and fall in careful tones. A report on grain stores. A request for road repairs. A noble Bose speaks, receives a measured reply. The king listens. He nods. He signs with steady hand. His face shows nothing. His posture remains upright. The crown rests where it belongs. But somewhere beneath the silence, beneath the ritual, there is a small space, so faint, so quiet, that remembers the dream. The forest path. The plain clothes. The feeling of walking without purpose. It does not change anything. It does not free him. But it is there, like the memory of a lullaby heard long ago, half forgotten, yet still able to soothe. He pauses once, just for a breath, and looks out the window. A bird lands on the sill. It stays for a moment, then flies away. No one notices the way his fingers relax, just slightly, against the arm of the chair. No one sees the softening around his eyes. And he says nothing. Back in the village, the peasant steps outside, barefoot, carrying a wooden bucket. He walks slowly toward the well, his shadow stretching long behind him in the morning light. The rope creaks softly as he lowers the bucket, listens for the splash deep below, then pulls it up, hand over hand, muscles moving without thought. He pours some water into the trough. The ox drinks, head low, nostrils flaring with each sip. A drop falls from its mouth, ripples in the water, then stills. The man stands for a moment, watching the sky, feeling the sun on his face, the coolness of the earth under his feet. He does not think about kings. He does not think about power. He does not even think about work. He simply is, here, now, alive, breathing, part of this quiet world. And you, listening, drifting, your awareness now thin as mist, your thoughts like feathers caught in a slow breeze, you are no longer following the story. You are inside it, floating within it, letting it carry you deeper, further, into rest. You don't need to stay awake. You don't need to remember. You don't need to be anyone. Just breathe. Just rest. Just sleep. Because in the end, when the fires dim and the voices fade, when the crowns are set aside and the fields lie fallow, we all return to the same place. A place without titles, without names, without past or future. We return to stillness, to warmth, to the quiet dark where nothing is asked of us. The peasant sleeps. The king sleeps. And so do you. Not because you are tired, but because you are safe. Because you are held. Because you are allowed to let go. So let the voice grow distant now. Let the words blur into silence. Let your breath guide you down, deeper, slower, further, into the arms of sleep, into the peace of forgetting, into the endless hush where you can finally rest.